Namaskar and welcome back. Today I'm going to share a discourse from our Guru, Shrii Shrii Anandamurti, which talks about the stages of the spiritual path. It's very interesting not only because it describes the stages, it describes the different obstacles that we face at those different stages, and it also talks about what we need to do or how we can overcome those obstacles. And lastly, also very interesting, it talks about different ways of seeing or thinking about the supreme consciousness that you take or that are helpful at each stage of the path. I'm only going to talk about the first three stages. There are 4 stages, but the 4th stage is when more or less you're perfect and you've got everything under control. So it's a little bit beyond the realm of relevance for most of us. So let's get into it. The path to the abode of blessedness, to establishment in supreme consciousness, may be divided into 4 different stages. To cross each and every stage, one must move in a particular style, with a particular kind of inspiration and stamina. In the first stage, the starting phase, it is the inborn instincts that may stand in the way, that may create obstacles in your march. One must keep these inborn instincts under control. In behavior, in different types of psychic expression, there must be some kind of restraint. Human beings, by their own ordinary power, very often cannot do this. Human beings, at the most, can make efforts. And if Paramapurusha, the Supreme Consciousness, is pleased with their efforts, he will help them with positive microvita, with grace. The duty of human beings is only to continue their efforts to please Paramapurusha. Human beings should always try to please Paramapurusha to obtain his grace. That alone will serve the purpose. So here in the first stage, you will have to go on towards the goal with more and more vitality. And this vitality you are to get from the Supreme Lord. Here Paramapurusha is your Lord, not only the Lord, but the Supreme Lord, from whom you are to get the stamina to move on. In this movement, one must not go beyond or against the characteristics of vitality. But you should have certain restraints over your physical movement and psychic demands. So in this stage, you are to know Paramapurusha. You are to know the Supreme Entity as the Lord of all lords. This is the first phase. And in this phase also, you are to try your best to bring as many persons, as many spiritual aspirants as possible to do this sacred duty along with you. In the second stratum, in the second stage, it concerns non-inborn instincts. If you go against their characteristics, they will revolt against you, and the result may be dangerous. I told you that under such circumstances, the physical integrity or physical structure may be in danger. There may be complete disintegration of the physical solidarity, the solidarity of any structure. In this phase, one is to remember that each and every particle of one's existence, each and every iota, each and every ectoplasm of one's existence is an indispensable part of the Supreme Entity. In the first phase, you are to ask Paramapurusha for the vitality to fight against your physical weaknesses, your physical imperfections. In the second phase, you are to ask for vitality, psychic vitality, not to fight against your inborn instincts, but against your physical or psychic imperfections. I already told you that human beings can make progress only up to a certain stage. And if they want to make further progress, they will have to divert their psychophysical longings towards a different and better path, and keep the flow of their movement intact. Or they will have to ascribe macrocosmic grandeur to physical pabulum. The special type of psychic force, the faculty of self-control which human beings require at this stage, lies hidden in human beings, which in fact lies hidden in all living beings to a certain extent. But that is not enough to accomplish the task. To do this, they will have to make more and more efforts, and for this they require more and more strength. And they will get this strength from Paramapurusha. It has already been said that human beings no doubt do spiritual practice, but merely by doing spiritual practice, they do not attain anything. Only due to the grace of Paramapurusha can they attain anything. So, to overcome their imperfection and establish themselves in the higher stratum, they will have to seek strength from Paramapurusha. They will have to approach Paramapurusha with these words: Paramapurusha, I want to move towards you, but I do not have sufficient strength to move. Please give me strength. I want to move on. In this phase, Paramapurusha is not only the Supreme Lord, but he is something more than that. He is also the supreme progenitor. He creates everything, and that is why he is in a position to help you. So you have now understood that in the first phase, the supreme entity is your Lord, the Lord of all lords. But in the second phase of your march, he is not only the Lord of all lords, but he is your supreme progenitor as well. When human beings reach the third stage, the speed of their progress is accelerated. The third stage concerns the psychic pabulum. There is quick progress, no doubt, in this stage, but there are strong possibilities of degradation also. At every step, one must move with vigilance. In this stage, the spiritual aspirants acquire some occult powers, but these powers may be dangerous after a certain progress. There is every chance of use or abuse of those occult powers, as a result of which one degenerates. Thus, in this stage, there are both inner and outer hindrances and obstacles. Kurasya dara nishita durochaya durgang patastat kavayo vadanti. The spiritual path is as sharp as the razor's edge. It is really inaccessible. So say the realized persons. Human beings will have to move on, but in this stage, they cannot move a step forward unless and until they develop a high-grade conscience. For this, they depend solely on the grace of the Supreme. The need for psychic power at this stage is felt much more than before, and to obtain psychic power or psychic strength is a difficult task. But this psychic power can be attained easily only by those who have learned how to surrender themselves to Paramapurusha, who have realized that only due to the wish of Paramapurusha they have come to the world, and again, because of his wish, they are continuing their efforts to realize Him. They realize that out of His grace, He gets the work done through their medium with the help of positive microvita. They think, I cannot claim any merit for this. I will simply keep on working, and the energy required to do the work will be supplied by Paramapurusha. I can say only this, that with whatever energy you have given me, I am working. And in future, with whatever amount of energy you will give me, I will work accordingly. From my side, there will be no laziness. Whatever energy you feel necessary to give me, you will bestow on me. I have nothing to say in the matter. If someone has pride inwardly that he is moving on by dint of his own strength, he is wrong. How little strength human beings possess. And with that little strength, how far can they move forward? Human beings really do not have anything to be proud of. If there is anything for them to be proud of, it is Paramapurusha. They should think, Paramapurusha is mine and I am his. That is the only source of pride. Because of his grace, they will get energy or strength from him, and with that strength, they will move forward. Without his grace, no one can move even a single step. And for this, people should always remember that by their own efforts, they do not make any progress. Rather, it is due to the wish of Paramapurusha that they make any progress at all. It is the duty of Paramapurusha to help them to move forward. This 100% reliance on Paramapurusha is called Prapati in the scriptures. Sadhakas should always maintain the spirit of Prapati, and they will never develop any sort of pride in their minds. Whatever takes place in the universe and whatever qualities I possess is all due to his grace. He is the Lord of everything. He is the machine man, and I am simply a machine. In this third stage, if there is devotion, one can easily move forward without any difficulty. But a person who has no devotion, whose heart is as dry as a desert, will find it impossible to progress. In this case, the spiritual aspirant will not only look upon the Supreme Entity as his Lord, and not only as the Supreme Progenitor, but as the Supreme Guru. That is, one who is capable of dispelling darkness. Gu means darkness, and Ru means dispeller. Paramapurusha alone is the Supreme Guru. Brahma eva Guru eka napara. Brahma alone is the Guru, no one else. With the help of this Guru, the sadhakas surmount, overcome the waves of degrading tendencies in the third stage. So, 4 stages to the spiritual path. Let's go back and look at each of the stages and what are the key points, what are the obstacles that we are trying to overcome, how can we overcome them. So the first stage, the obstacles come from our inborn instincts. This is the stage where we have psychophysical desire for physical objects. And that means things like hunger and sleep. So what is necessary is that we always need to keep some control. We should never loosen that control. It's mentioned that our capacity for control is not always enough, and therefore we have to get somehow some extra strength from somewhere, and we get that strength from the Supreme Consciousness, from Paramapurusha. And it is fine, and we are encouraged to ask for that extra power to deal with our physical weaknesses. While control is necessary, the control should never go against the principles of vitality. In other words, it shouldn't be so much that it damages our health. And here, yogis in the past have also taught this wisdom. For example, Buddha taught the middle way. He did extreme fasting for long periods of time and didn't succeed. And finally he realized that it was too much. And in the end, what he taught was the middle way. And Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita said, yoga is not for one who eats too much, and not for one who eats too little, not for one who sleeps too much, and not for one who sleeps too little. It's a very nice way of expressing how we need control, but it shouldn't be excessive and it shouldn't be damaging. And finally, in this stage, it's mentioned that we should see Paramapurusha in a particular way, or we should think of and address or communicate to Paramapurusha in a special way. We should communicate thinking of him as the Lord of all lords, the Supreme Lord. So I reflected, why is this important? And the feeling I got from it is that if you think of Paramapurusha in this way, it gives a sense of mental expansion. So you're focusing on the greatest power in the universe, and that gives a feeling of greatness and expansion. It gives you a feeling of confidence that you can get the help that you need, and it gives a sense that you are moving in the right direction. You're pointed at the highest thing possible. Then we come to the second stage, which is also psychophysical longing for physical objects or physical pabula, physical food. But the nature of these longings is related to non-inborn instincts. So instincts which you don't have at the time that you are born, but they develop later as the glands develop. So things like shyness and shame, we don't have those when we are born, but they develop later. And they can become obstacles, so we have to find some way of dealing with them. And sexuality, sexual longing develops as the glands develop and can become an obstacle or a challenge. So it's mentioned that with these types of obstacles coming from non-inborn instincts, there is more scope to control. Means you can give more control without damaging your vitality. But if you go too far, you can also damage yourself and cause the destruction of your mind and your body, because over-control, and let's call that repression then, can cause a revolt. Means that the forces that you are trying to control and repress or over-control will, when they are repressed too much, they will revolt back against you and cause damage mentally and physically and even lead to death. So the only way that we can avoid that happening, in other words, the only way that we can keep more control and avoid this reaction happening, is two things. One, especially with things like the more mental things like shyness and shame, the practice which is advised is to remind yourself that every atom of your being, every thought wave, every ectoplasm, which means part of your mind, every atom and molecule of your existence is a precious part of the Supreme Being, right? So that is reminding you that every thought that you have, whether you may think it to be shameful, it's also a form of the divine, and it's a precious form of the divine. So if you keep thinking that about your thoughts, then it will help to overcome this feeling of shame, because every thought that comes up in your mind, where does it come from? It comes from the divine. It is the divine in one form or another. It has its own beauty to it. So by constantly reminding yourself, it helps you overcome this non-inborn instinct of shame. Then for something which is more about desire, like say sexual desire, here the advice is to apply cosmic ideation to the object of desire, right? So what I desire, remind yourself that this is also God, right? This is an expression of God. And if you do that, then the mind becomes diverted in a different flow. You see your object of desire, maybe a person, a boy or a girl, and you see that as God in that form, and now without blocking your flow of desire, your flow has been redirected towards the divine. And the language that is used here is that the flow is maintained, but given a better channel or given a better direction. So we understand that it's important not to block the flow, but rather to redirect it towards the divine. So when we put the two together, it means that the object of your desire is divine, the mind which desires it is also divine, and the desire itself is also divine. If you can, at all levels, cultivate that type of thinking, then it will help you to overcome shame, and it will help you to keep your desires under control in a way that is not repressive. And I think that's really important and useful for most of us. Then, also at this level, we are encouraged to not only think about God as our supreme Lord or the Lord of all lords, but also as our creator, as our progenitor, as our parent. So why is that important? I think at this phase, when we think of Paramapurusha in this way, as our creator, as our progenitor, as our parent, as our father or mother, it creates a closer feeling, a deeper sense of intimacy, which enables more devotion. I think if you think that God is the creator, is creating me in this moment, it creates a certain humbleness. It helps to overcome the feeling that I am the doer, right? And to realize that God is the doer, God is doing everything, which is an important help to, when we have this kind of feeling that I am not the doer, suddenly the door is open to receive grace and to receive the help that we need to go forward in this particular stage. Then we come to the third level, and here it's about psychic desire for psychic pabulum, means psychic food. So here it means the desire to expand. We are born with this desire to expand our consciousness. We have this desire that our consciousness should not be small, it should get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and that gives us this feeling of happiness. It's about spiritual desire, the desire for spiritual progress, the desire for realization. And here the warning or the danger is, the two dangers. The first is that you can lose your balance. Some people forget about their physical body, they forget about their mental needs, and they just focus on spirituality. And you often find people who, kind of lose their, they become partly mad or partly insane. They lose their balance and they start to fantasize and they live in a completely unreal world. We've had a few people like that here at the ashram, very sincere spiritual people, but they are so neglecting their physical and mental needs and so focused on their spirituality in an unbalanced way that they lose their mental balance, and ultimately their mind becomes unhealthy and the body becomes unhealthy also. So here it's necessary to go forward with your spiritual desire, but always keep balance with your mental needs and your physical needs. And it's advised that sometimes a diversion is necessary. So you're trying to go ahead on your spiritual journey, but if you're neglecting your mind and your body, then there will be some resistance or there'll be some problems. So sometimes you need a diversion. You need to play a game or go out and run or watch a movie or do something to divert your mind and take it off that unhealthy, single-minded focus on spirituality. But take a diversion, but keep balance. Don't lose your balance in the other way, that you go from one extreme to the other and get lost in physicality or psychic pursuit. So always keep that idea of balance between physical, mental, and spiritual while you are enjoying your diversion. The other danger that comes at this stage, when you are really moving forward fast on the spiritual level, is that occult powers can develop. The other danger that comes at this stage, this is a stage of great speed and great progress, and when your meditation develops fast, then occult powers may also develop. And along with those can come a very dangerous sense of ego. There is as occult powers develop, there can be the temptation to use those powers for name and fame, for acquiring power and wealth. So it's a very high stage, but the danger of downfall is high at this stage. And we know many gurus, great personalities, somehow at this point make a mistake and have a downfall and destroy their reputation and hurt many people in the process. So to get through this stage, what is necessary is a high-grade conscience, means a very strong sense of what is good and what is bad and what is right and what is wrong. And that conscience will prevent you from misusing those powers. But it says, the discourse says, that in order to have that level of high-grade conscience, you can only achieve that by the grace of Paramapurusha. So here we come back again and to the same theme on all those three levels. We have some capacity, but it's never enough. We need more, and we can only get that extra power and capacity that we need from Paramapurusha. So our efforts here should be to win the grace and the help of Paramapurusha by making efforts to please him. Here also it is said that what is needed is this feeling that Paramapurusha is doing everything, acknowledging that everything that you achieve is actually done by Paramapurusha, right? And the word Prapati is used, and it's defined as 100% reliance on Paramapurusha, right? So that's something to think about. What does that really mean? 100% reliance on Paramapurusha, really cultivating in yourself the thought that Paramapurusha is doing everything, whatever capacity I have, whatever I have achieved. It is not me, I'm just a machine. It is Paramapurusha who has achieved it. So, cultivating that sense of Prapati. And here it is said that although this phase is very dangerous, we can get through it easily if there is a feeling of devotion, right? If devotion is there, somehow the devotee doesn't have any problem to get through this phase because the devotee loves Paramapurusha and knows that Paramapurusha is doing everything, so won't face those problems. People who don't have devotion, whose heart is dry, they will face a lot of difficulties and not be able to get through this dangerous phase. And lastly, the way that we speak to Paramapurusha, the way that we think of Paramapurusha also changes. It's not that we stop the other ones and start something else. We add on another layer. So in the first level, we think of Paramapurusha as the Lord of all lords. In the second level, we think of Paramapurusha as our creator, as our parent, as our progenitor. In the third level, we think of Paramapurusha also, in addition to those two, as the Supreme Guru. So why is this important, and what is the change? This is an element that comes as the spiritual aspirant, the spiritual practitioner is more mature. Someone who sees and desires that final goal of self-realization and liberation and understands that the Guru is the guide who is going to help them achieve that goal, who is going to be the one who gives that final liberation. So this feeling of the Supreme Guru is one that comes on a more mature stage of the spiritual path when the goal of liberation and self-realization is closer to hand and we realize the importance of the Guru in achieving it. So these are all very useful points. It's very important to know what are the obstacles at the different stages of the path, what are the challenges, what are the ways and attitudes and tools that we need to overcome and pass successfully through each of those stages. I haven't talked about the last stage because it's the stage where you have everything under control. You have basically no more internal enemies or weaknesses. So it's a little bit beyond the range of most of us at this stage. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you found it as useful and inspiring as I did. Namaskar.